It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth, financial literacy educator and speaker, entrepreneur, and chairman of the board of Bank Information. Take charge of your financial future with Your Personal Bank. Now here's Ference Toth.
Welcome to Your Personal Bank. This is something you're going to probably hear me say quite often now going forward for a while. And if you heard me in the last show, you heard me say this quite a bit. But I'm going to really encourage folks that have not yet really taken a serious look at your personal bank to add it to your financial portfolio as a tool to increase your liquidity, to reduce your taxes, to reduce liability, market risk, that kind of thing, to increase your rate of return through positive arbitrage, all those kind of things. Now's the time to do it. It's the most important time to look at and consider and review your financial plan than it's been in over a decade because of the Federal Reserve and the dramatic changes, interest rates that are coming very soon, increases, and the easing of quantitative easing of their monetary policy. We have not seen a change like this in over a decade. We are going to see major changes that will affect your money, and you need to plan accordingly. I'm not saying this to scare people. I'm just saying plan accordingly. You can thrive in this environment also, just like many people have done for the past decade. But the rules of the game are changing. You need to change with it. So contact me at toll-free 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. I'm going to be continually expressing this for a while because it's so important because of the significance of the changes. The second thing that I really want to impress upon people is just like the significant changes we're seeing in economic policy with the Federal Reserve, which will affect our money in many myriad ways, okay? It'll affect our investments, our taxes, our retirements, our property values, all of those things. We need to plan accordingly. Just like all those changes are occurring rapidly, we need to change from a political standpoint how we've gone about things. We need to change our approach. I've shared this so many times in the past. I was not politically active. I was one of those who would pay attention. I was a fairly informed voter, but not politically active. And what I mean by that is I would do my research a month or two before the general elections, twice a year, or every 2 years, and do some research to pick who I felt like was the candidates that most closely aligned with my belief system, and then I would vote accordingly and go back to my life, raising my family, building my business, working with clients, I think like most people. But what I've come to realize, as many have, with the interference that our governments, at all levels, have imposed upon our lives over the last couple of years, we can't just keep doing things the way we've been doing them, going along the way we've been going, or we're just going to lose the freedoms we have left. And that's the conclusion I've come to. Now, whether you agree with that or not, I don't think that's fine. I shouldn't say this. If you agree with me or not, and how my political beliefs are, my belief system is, and how I want to see our society and our government going forward, I don't think that's important. I think we can all agree that things have changed. And we need to change with it. And so that's the second thing I've said is, as important as it is to review your financial plan, make some changes to diversify, lower taxes, and reduce market risk, create positive arbitrage, it's equally as important to get involved politically to support the candidates that most closely match your belief system. Now, what do we have to do? Well, we have to get more educated as voters. One of the things I've learned as far as two things. There's really two major political parties, as we all know. And even if you were sort of in the middle, which I think is the majority of Americans, and you were an independent, or maybe you voted Republican sometimes, or Democrat sometimes, or whatever, and you tended to support more moderate candidates, that doesn't work anymore, particularly, on either side. And I'll explain. I mentioned it briefly in the last show, but I'm going to flesh this out a little further. Here's what I'm going to say to you. If you continue to support a Democratic candidate, even if they're moderate, you are supporting Bernie Sanders and AOC's policies. And what I mean by that is real simple. when you look at the votes of all these different progressive policies, and some of them very progressive, far more so than most moderates, Republican or Democrat or independents, would agree with, they almost all vote in lockstep. So whether your particular candidate runs as a moderate or not, Democrat at least, you're supporting very progressive policies. So what you need to understand is, if you agree with those progressive policies, so you're okay with the border being open, and you want to see more government spending, and you want to see us pull out of Afghanistan the way we did, and you want to see pipelines shut down and our energy prices go up, and you want all these things that are going on, and more homelessness, and you're okay with district attorneys not convicting or not prosecuting even severe, serious criminals. You're okay with all those things. Well, then keep voting Democrat, because basically that's what's going to happen. You're going to continue. We've seen what they do. I'm not saying what I always said. What you do speaks so loudly. What you say I cannot hear. So if you support those policies, then vote Democrat. Whether you're moderate or not doesn't matter, because your candidate more than likely is going to vote with the progressive wing of the party, because that's what they're all doing and have done for the last year plus. In fact, perfect example, when Joe Manchin said he was not going to support Build Back Better, oh my gosh, the backlash he got from his own party was incredible. And I mean, it was like, how dare you not vote with the rest of us, kind of thing. Now, I think the response was totally foolish in my opinion, but when you got, such a narrow, I mean, it's 50. Well, really, there's 48 Democrat senators and there's 50 Republican senators. There just happen to be 2 independent senators who vote with the Democrats or liberal leaning. And if it's a 50-50 tie, the VP gets to be the tiebreaker. That's as close as the margins you can get. And the way they responded, reacted, I mean, geez, if he gets pissed off enough, he may just stop voting with him, right? Or change parties even. Who knows? But my point is, I'm getting off topic here a little. What I really want to focus on is, again, if you've always supported Democrats and you're moderate, on the moderate side of things, you are right now supporting, your representatives are supporting the progressive wing, because that's how they're voting, with very, very few exceptions. Joe Manchin he voted for all the other stuff. He just couldn't sign on to Build Back Better. It was just, I guess, one step too far for him. But he supported all these other things. So it's not like he's all that moderate himself. Just happens to be the most moderate of the Democrats at this time. So you got to really consider that. And if you don't like the progressive policies, it's time to change your vote. It's time to change who you support. It's time to change what you're doing. See, I hear a lot of people talk about Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Yes, she's more moderate than most Democrats. But based on her voting record over the last 4 years, she's voted 97% liberal, 3% conservative. And that puts her in one of the most moderate of the Democrats. 3%, folks. Look, do I want a senator representing me as a more conservative, particularly fiscal policy voter 3% of the time? I think not. So, my point is, some people I've heard say, well, we can live with her. Really, I don't want to live with her, because I want the direction of our country to change back. I think we've spent far too much money, far too big a government, far too progressive, far too liberal policies I don't agree with. I've shared many of these many times over the show. I don't need to go into them all. You know what I'm talking about. I think our country needs a fundamental shift in direction to what the majority of Americans really want. Secure borders, safety, low crime, smaller government, less intrusion, less regulations, less taxes. We don't need to support people to just not work, and paying prisoners and things like that. COVID stimulus checks is just ridiculous, okay? I'm sorry. Just ridiculous, in my opinion. Things like this. We don't need to tangle ourselves in foreign wars and be sending foreign aid everywhere around the world, crazy amounts of money, when we can't even support our own veterans, for example, or our own small business people. Things like that, okay? I want to see those kind of fundamental changes, all right? back to what I think is a more land of opportunity. Okay. Now, let me talk to the other side. Because, folks, by the way, I'm independent. So if you didn't know, and I lean libertarian, frankly. So I guess in some ways it gives me the ability to understand and talk to both sides of the coin, which I'm going to share some more on this in the next segment, which will be, I think you'll find very interesting. Because I spent some time in California over the Christmas holidays with friends and family. But on the other side, when we have the more moderate Republicans who support more moderate candidates who say we just need to get along with the other side. Some people call them the rhinos, okay? Here's the thing. In the past, that worked. But the rules have changed. Just like the economic policy of the Fed has changed. You're going to see the values of stock market and real estate markets change. The political winds, the political situation has changed. There is no working with the other side anymore. The progressives, who I call regressives because they want to regress to a lesser form of government, have stated over and over again. They're not hiding the ball, folks. They've stated over and over again. They want to fundamentally change our system of our government and our society. Well, I got news for you. I don't want to fundamentally change our country. This country was built upon opportunity and freedoms. And I want to keep those things. And that's why people came here, escaped here, and still are coming here for the opportunities and the freedoms that this country offers that few others do. And I don't want to change that. I'm sorry. I disagree. And I believe most people do. And I don't apologize for that. And I'm not going to be kowtowed for that. Okay? Because that's what I believe. At least at this point, we have the freedom to say that. And I'm going to do everything in my power to help keep those freedoms and that ability for those opportunities. Okay? So, we can't work with the other side. We can't work with the progressives because they want to fundamentally change everything that we want and believe in our society and our government. So we need to support the type of candidates that believe similarly, that want to keep this land of opportunity, want to have a secure border, want to have low crime, who want to have smaller government, less regulations, less taxes, less interfering in our lives, right? Want to have a strong military. Not kick out military because they won't get a shot. That's crazy in my opinion. I'm sorry. I was in the military. I understand you're supposed to follow orders, but you're willing to risk your life to here's what people that are complaining about this miss. And I was in the military, so I can say this. Well, you know what? I'm coming up on a hard break, so stay tuned. I'll share with you in the next segment what I really feel about this, so don't miss it.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Okay, we're back. Welcome back to Your Personal Bank Show. Right before the break, those of you who are listening, I was getting pretty fired up about a situation that I lived personally, okay? I was in the military. And I find this something that I find very offensive, personally. And that's this whole situation about discharging military members because they refuse to take the shot. Now, I've seen arguments on both sides. They say, well, you join the military, you're supposed to follow orders and all this kind of good stuff, which I get that. And those that join the military have pledged an oath. You basically put yourself in the position where if you had to, you might have to put your life on the line to protect the country. And I understand that. And when I joined the military myself, I did for several reasons. One of them, though, key reasons, was I believed in this country. I appreciated the freedoms this country gave me, and I wanted to continue to protect and preserve those freedoms. And you're gonna find that a very common theme through many military members, both current and former. But when attacking military members for not taking the shot, I find it extremely offensive for several reasons. One, although, yes, you're supposed to follow orders and you're supposed to protect the country, and you may have to put your life on the line to do that. And given the situation, I would have been willing to do that. I firmly believe that. Thankfully, I never had to do so. And I think most military members would if the situation came to it. But You put your life on the line to protect an idea, an ideal, the country, your loved ones, your citizens, your country. It's so others can live in freedom, right? Why would you support something that is not, it's a mandate? It's not freedom. It's not choice. Okay? It's not the ideals you protect. It goes against, in fact, it goes against everything you actually stand for. So why would you do that? So I would have a conscious, I'm thankful I never had to make that decision. I wasn't in the military when this happened. But it would be a dilemma. The other thing is, and let's not forget this fact, more and more scientific studies have come out and flat out stated that COVID, as all viruses and pretty much almost all diseases, vastly affect the older people, the older population. And COVID in particular has been proven to really affect those who are obese. Now, the media doesn't want to say that. Our health authorities have not said that, but the studies have shown it. The statistics show it. The facts are that. And it's sad because what our health leaders should have done, should have said, like our doctors have said to us our whole life. What do they always say? Eat right, exercise, get plenty of rest, right? In other words, get in shape, lose weight, stop smoking, right? Those things will all help you not get sick, not have illnesses, right? It's not fat shaming. It's a fact. It's a medical health fact. Well, I don't know about you, but how many military members are old? I'm talking over 75. None. How many military members are obese? None. You have to pass a physical fitness test each year just to be in the military. So by definition, you cannot be obese and be in the military. Therefore, right off the bat, you've knocked out the vast majority. In other words, you're talking about a population that has some of the least likelihood issues with this whole thing, this whole virus thing. In other words, this doesn't affect them hardly at all. Why is it an issue? It's not an issue because of medical reasons. It's an issue because of political. It's a political purge. They're trying to purge out of the military people who stand for freedom and have a true consciousness about it. Because if indeed some of the changes that the current leaders want to make, and this is not me, this is them stating, they want to make fundamental changes to our government and our society, there's people in the military they can't count on. They want them out. And that's just a fact, folks. It's a sad fact. Some of the best and brightest are getting kicked out. And those are the people that are there to protect us. We should all be, there should be such an uproar over this. And the fact that there isn't, I find this incredibly sad. Those are the people that are there that should be, those are our heroes, folks. So, yes, I feel strongly about it. We should not attack those people, the military. Same as our first responders and people like that. That's just ridiculous. Okay? So, as I was stating earlier, just as important as it is to really consider your financial plan and all that because of the fundamental changes that the Federal Reserve is making to monetary policy, it's just as important to fundamentally change how you're operating politically. Like I said, getting along with the other side is no longer an option because, as I stated earlier, if you vote Democrat, almost by lockstep, they all vote for some of the most progressive policies, all of them, even if your representative is moderate. And if you vote Republican, moderate Republican, sometimes they go on the other side and help them spend more money and pass some of these progressive policies. We need people that will stop them and go against it and be on the more conservative side. Fiscally, certainly, spend less money, less government, less regulations, less taxes, less all of that, right? We need people to stand firm against those things. So you need to go for more of the conservative candidates so that we can turn our country back in the direction where the most Americans want to be. And that's a fact, folks. Every poll shows that. Even Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat, stated we're a center-right country. We need to fight for those right principles, those conservative principles. Protect the border, strong military, small government, less regulations, less interference, less taxes. We don't need to be paying people to not work. We don't need to be sending money all over the world in foreign aid when we can't even take care of our own veterans and our own small business owners that we've killed their businesses. Right? We don't need to be doing those things. Look, if you support all those progressive policies, vote Democrat. But if you don't, find a Republican. But not only that, don't support a moderate Republican, support a strong conservative candidate. That's why I'm interviewing Blake Masters next week, or next show. Stay tuned. He's running for U.S. Senate, Arizona, Republican. If he wins the primary, he runs against Mark Kelly, Democrat, who has the most liberal voting record in the U.S. Senate for the last 2 years. Folks, this is not hyperbole. That's the facts. Look at his voting record. I've shared this multiple times. You can go online. You can go to Liberty Score, Conservative Review, and look up the voting record of every single representative in the House or Senate and see what their voting record is. Mark Kelly's voting record, U.S. Senator from Arizona, has a more liberal voting record than Chuck Schumer of New York. There is no one that can convince me that Arizona is more liberal than New York. Is Mark Kelly representing Arizona? I think not. I think that's a person that needs to be replaced in this next election, in the midterm elections. And not only that, we can't just wait to the general election because the Republican Party stays neutral until the primary, whoever wins the primary. And I'd learned this recently. And that's why so many rhinos or moderate Republicans win the primaries, because many times they're the establishment candidate. They're the ones with the name recognition, so they get voted in. We actually have to support the conservative candidate who may not have the most name recognition, but has the best policies for what our belief system is. I believe Blake Masters to be that candidate. I want you to listen to the interview in the next show and decide for yourself, because I ask him a bunch of questions, and you're going to get to know him much better. We spend the entire show asking what he thinks about all these policies. So stay tuned to the next show for the Blake Masters interview. Stay tuned to the next segment. I'm going to share some more important things we're going to need to deal with going forward. So don't miss it.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to Your Personal Bank Show. I've been sharing this, and I'm going to continue to do so. 2 things I think we need to do right now. Reassess your financial plan. Review it. Look at it. Seriously consider making changes. The Federal Reserve is making major monetary changes to monetary policy that we haven't seen in over a decade. This is going to impact your money, folks. It's going to impact your investments, your retirement, your property values, all the taxes, all of these things. You need to look in this and consider your personal bank as part of that financial tool, or one of those financial tools to help you reduce market risk, create diversification, have access to more money, create positive arbitrage. All of those things it can do. Contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or toll free 866-268-4422. It's more important now than it's been in a decade, okay? Because things haven't changed much in the past decade as far as the Federal Reserve is concerned, but now they are, significantly. Second thing we need to do, and I've talked about this a lot also, we need to operate differently from a political standpoint because the game has changed significantly, just like monetary policy with the Federal Reserve. It used to be all right to vote or support moderate candidates or just kind of start to pay attention a little bit before the general election, vote who you thought was the best or the worst, the best candidate you believed or the worst of 2 evils sometimes, right? And then go about your lives because, frankly, there wasn't a significant amount of difference in most cases between the Republican or Democratic candidates in many cases. And that's just a fact. There were small differences, but not major, huge differences. Well, that's changed. Even if you support the moderate Democrat, for example, they are all voting lockstep almost every single time for the most progressive policies, the Bernie Sanders and AOC policies, the progressive stuff. So unless even though your candidate may be moderate, you may be more moderate, by you voting and supporting them, you're actually supporting progressive policies. And if you support those progressive policies and you want to fundamentally change our country as it stands, as a society and as a government, like they're repeatedly saying they want to do, then continue to vote Democrat and support that, because that's what you're doing. But if you don't, and here's the interesting part, the vast majority of Americans don't, then you need to change your voting habits. You need to, if you've been you may have voted Democrat your entire life. Your father, grandparents might have voted Democrat. It might be a family. I've heard people say D was stamped on my forehead when I was born because of family connections or whatever. You know what? What kind of country do you want? That's what you need to really consider. Do you want a land of opportunity, or do you want a land of dependency? That's what you need to decide. And if you don't want that land of dependency, if you don't want to turn the rest of the country into California, for example, you need to change your vote. Change Republican, but not just any Republican. See, if you shift just the moderate Republicans, that's a moderate improvement. But many people think, many rhinos, for example, oftentimes vote with the other side for so many of these big government spending packages and progressive policies. To stop them, we've got to vote for the fiscal conservative, the one who's willing, the one that's fiscally responsible, who's not going to spend money like a drunken sailor. We'll stand firm for those kinds of things. We'll stand firm to protect, not allow illegal immigration to the levels we've seen. Secure the borders, reduce crime, reduce the size of impact of government and taxes and everything else, or regulations. You need to support the candidate who's going to firmly stand against that. That's why I said in the next show, I'm going to really encourage you to stay tuned. I'm interviewing Blake Masters, U.S. Candidate for U.S. Senator for Arizona. See if he's a candidate you believe in, that you can support. And the thing is, if you're going to support a Republican, guess what? You got to support the candidate you want before the primaries, which in Arizona are August 2nd. Because I didn't realize why so many Republican candidates were rhinos or moderate Republicans. It's because they were the establishment types, the ones who had the name recognition, right? And they won the primaries because of their name recognition. That's who people voted for, the majority did. And then the Republican Party steps in and supports that candidate. Whoever wins the primary, they stay neutral. So if you have a fiscally responsible candidate you want to support, whether it's for Senate or House or governor or locally or school boards or mayor or any other position, you need to find those people before the primaries and help them win the primary, folks. That's the key to getting people that will actually represent us, not special interest groups, or just continue to support more big government. Okay? Because I think that's one of the biggest problems we have is we have people that believe in government far, far too much. And I'm talking about politicians on both sides of the aisle, that their entire lives, their entire careers, they're career politicians. And so just like with your business or your career, for most people, that's something that's pretty important to them, right? And naturally so. Well, if your business, your career is government, what are you going to support? Stay tuned in the next segment. We'll talk about some more things, so don't miss it. You're going to love this. Some insights I got from California.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Okay, welcome back to Your Personal Bank Show. We're going to wrap this up today, and I'm going to share with you some real insights I got over Christmas break from California. So our family, like I said, spent some Christmas time with some family and friends in California, in the LA area. And initially, I was excited about it because we were meeting the Hungarian side of the family. Many of them never met. And we were excited about it. And then, a week or two before we were supposed to go, of course, Governor Newsom came out with new mask mandate, statewide mask mandate for California, December 15th through January 15th. I had a meeting with our family. I was not happy. And I said, look, they're putting on a mask mandate. I'm not going anywhere. I need to wear a mask. And this was for anywhere indoors, irregardless of vaccine status. Didn't matter. You had to have a mask. And I'm like, I want to go. I need to see the family and all that. Don't get me wrong. But I don't want to go anywhere that I have to wear a mask. So if we're just going to hang out with the family, but if going out to eat or going anywhere or doing anything or support, I don't want to do that. And they were pretty much in agreement, but they wanted to go also. So we talked to the family, and they said, no, not a problem. Because we said, look, we live in Arizona. We haven't had to wear a mask in over a year. Heck, we don't even have any anymore. Don't even know where they are. And, just not going to go back to that. We haven't lived it for over a year. Not going to go back to it. If California wants to do that, whatever. That's their choice. Well, anyway, we got there and got to meeting different people and all that. And by the way, they were not only saying no mask, wear masks. They were also encouraging families not to get together. And if you're unvaccinated, families not spend Christmas together, all this kind of stuff. But here's what I found interesting. Nobody was listening. What do I mean? You saw all this stuff. You heard it on the radio. You heard it everywhere. But it was on both billboards, all driving around L.A., the whole thing. But Christmas Eve, we're heading to one of my cousin's house that evening. We were in a traffic jam. Now, people weren't driving home from work. I looked. Almost every car had families or multiple people in them. They weren't driving home from work. They were going to spend time with family and friends. They weren't listening. We were in Orange County. Walked into a CVS because I needed to get something. And big sign on the door, must wear a mask, governor mandates, all this other stuff. I walk in the door, of course, without a mask, like I do everywhere. My attitude is this, and it's been that way since almost the beginning. I complied for the first month or two until we determined that it wasn't a risk for me that I needed to deal with or be concerned about because I didn't have any risk factors. And I'd already had COVID, by the way. I've shared that story many times. So my approach is very simple. I walk in to any place, I will not wear a mask. And if they tell me I have to wear one, then if they have one, they can give it to me if I really want to be in that place. But I say, I'll put it on, but you have to promise, I need you to do me a favor. And they'll look at me and I'll say, next time you vote for somebody who supports our civil liberties or supports freedom. Now, here's the funny thing when I say that. And by the way, a lot of times I'm talking to young people who are working the cash register of a grocery store or whatever, right? Or because I've been traveling around the country this past year still. And about 80% of the time, irregardless of where I am, whether it's California or Utah or whatever, doesn't matter, I get a absolutely, amen, brother, kind of stuff, right? So the vast, vast majority are in agreement, even when you wouldn't think they might be, just from the surface appearance. So again, I really encourage you to do that. Make them ask you to wear a mask. I don't make a big deal of it. I don't argue with them or complain because I understand. I say, I understand it's your job. You don't have to deal with this either. But I need you to do me a favor. Next time you vote, support somebody who supports our freedoms. And it's a good education learning tool. I've been sharing that with a lot of people, and many people I know have been using that. And it works. It works, folks. It's a great education. And maybe they'll think a little bit next time on who they support, who they vote for. My point is, I walk in this CVS. I'm in Orange County. Half the people in the place aren't wearing masks. I go up and pay for my item. Cashier, they don't care. They're not enforcing them. They're not the mask police, and they don't want to be. We went and visited some hotels, some other holiday locations in Orange County, Riverside, several different places. Same thing. Now, here in Arizona, if we go somewhere, we still see a few masks, maybe about 10%, if that. And again, that's somebody's personal choice. If they want to wear them, I don't care. That's their choice. Just don't force us. Let everybody decide for themselves. We're adults. We're big boys and girls. We can make our own decisions, right? I'm not 5 anymore. My point is, about half we'd see where we were going, but about half weren't, and none of the employees said a word anywhere. And I was like, you know what? I was pleasantly surprised by that. And talking to people, that, by the way, the COVID thing and mask mandates and vaccine mandates were the topic of discussion at every dinner, every get-together with every friend and family member. It's almost all they talked about in California. And I remember saying to several of them after a few days, I've talked more about COVID in this past week than I have for the past year. And I have a radio show. It seems like that's all you guys focused on. But again, it's in their face like every day. They're living it. We're not. So I said, you should come over here. You'd be shocked. It's kind of like it's pre-COVID, right? My point is, they're living it. And here's what's interesting. More and more of them, they're not listening. They're tired of it. They're sick of it. They're questioning, why is the government still continuing to force these things down our throats? And I had a very, very interesting conversation, in particular, with one of my relatives. And she was second gender, born here too, like myself, but let's just say leaned more on the liberal side of things, California, the whole thing, right? I don't want to say any of these things to embarrass her or anything like that. It's just, but what was interesting is, we met knowing what I did for a living. We're related. And so she started asking me some questions. She's a mom, and her issue was, she's done everything, like she said, done everything they told her, gotten, vaccine boosted, done all these things, but now they're wanting to force her kids to get vaccinated, and they're young kids, school age. And she goes, I can't go there. I was like, good for you. She goes, the risk is just so not, it's not worth it. In fact, she's now homeschooling her kids because of it. And I said, good for you, because that's the kind. I said, here's the thing. There's hope. There's still hope, I believe now. I thought California was lost. I thought it was an absolute lost cause. Until I come to find out, you know what? Maybe it's not. Because more and more people like her, she's, let's face it, Democrat, liberal leaning, politically, that kind of stuff, who's really questioning. And we spent several hours discussing. She goes, well, let me ask you this, and let me ask you that. And here's the thing. The key is the discourse. And she learned some perspectives, and so did I. I learned some perspectives from her. I was like, wow, I was shocked. I said, wow, your perspective and the information you've been getting is so different than what I'm getting here in Arizona, for example, right? It's almost like it's almost like talking to somebody from a different country. But you understand the environment they're in and what they're getting fed and what they're hearing is causing part of it. And as I pointed out to her, I kept saying, think about this a minute. Why are they doing what they're doing? What do the leaders want? Obviously, they want power and control, right? What does the media want? They want listeners. They want people to fear, and it keeps people listening and more advertising dollars and all that kind of stuff, right? So I said, think about the motivation behind the people that are spreading all this stuff and, frankly, spreading this fear of COVID, for example. Now, another interesting thing I thought was, one of the things we want to do is I wanted to go see the Rose Bowl floats. I didn't want to go to the parade. I didn't want to have to wait all night to get a place. They let you see the floats after the parade. I thought that'd be a cool thing to see. I always thought I owned a retail plant nursery once. I'm an agriculture major, and that kind of stuff interests me. And I've always wanted to see them, never have. And so I looked it up, and we were going to go until I saw. Now remember, this is outside. They're parking the floats outside after the parade on a street. They close off, and you have to show a vaccine card or proof of a test in the last 72 hours. And you had to wear a mask to get in. Now remember, folks, it's outside. All right? Well, that's a hard pass. I'm not going to do that. It's not worth it. And my point was, if more people would just say, you know what, you're going to make me jump all these hoops to do this, forget it. Not worth it. If enough people did that, guess what? They'd be forced to change their policies, right? But, of course, that was in L.A. County. And what I came to learn is L.A. County, a lot of them there call it the socialist county of L.A., and it is. It's a different world. It's really, really interesting how, even some places in Orange County, they said, we're Orange County. We don't do that. So we hear from the media and stuff what L.A. County's doing, but the rest of them are not. And frankly, that's the majority, folks. And many of them are Democrats. So here's what I want you to understand. And this is where maybe some of the hope going forward. We're seeing people rejecting this wokeism, rejecting this government overreach, these vaccine mandates, or whatever it may be, or like in her case, the kids happen to be vaccinated. Now we're seeing the teachers unions of many of these liberal cities basically refusing to go to work and do their job. Frankly, my opinion, they should be fired. They should pull a Ronald Reagan. You got, 2 days, you got 48 hours to show up to work. If you don't, you're fired. We replace you. Kudos to the 10% of Chicago teachers that showed up to volunteer to teach anyway. Those are the ones we want to keep. Those are the good teachers. The 90%, replace them. We don't need them to teach the junk they've been teaching most of our kids anyway, because frankly, especially in those more liberal cities, this is actually a good thing. I mean, I'm torn. I mean, the kids are not getting an education, but were they really before? I mean, the levels of, what is it? The levels of like math and science and reading are pathetic. I mean, the amount of money that's spent nationally on education. I've seen numbers in the range like $27,000 per kid per year that we spend on average, and private schools spend something like $11,000 per year. Where's all that extra money going? Primarily the teacher unions and pensions and stuff like that, right? That's not right. This whole thing about these teachers refusing to work in the bigger picture, I think, spells doom and the end of the teachers unions, which would be one of the best things. If that was the only thing that happened as a result of COVID, it'd be worth it almost. You know what I'm trying to say? I mean, I'm not for the people who died and stuff. I get that. But one of the good things that came from all this, you see what I'm trying to say? These teachers unions need to be gone, folks. They are destroying the education of our kids and our future, and it's sad. And until those things get changed, get your kids out. Get your kids out of it, like this relative of mine who's now homeschooling her kids in L.A. Because, well, heck, for the last year or so, they weren't in school anyway, right? And then this other thing about, you want me to give you a little more hope? Here's a poll you may not have heard about, but since 2018, there's been a 42-point shift of voters shifting, Hispanic voters shifting towards Republicans. So that's just in 3 years, folks. Why? Well, Hispanics in general, historically, culturally, are rather traditional family values and things like that. Which policies, which political party do you think appeals to them more general when they start to really think about it? Progressive stuff? Killing the family and all this other stuff? Or Republicans, conservatives, right? Who believe in traditional family values. You see what I'm saying? There's reason to hope. Major reason for optimism going forward. And then the other thing about, back to the teacher thing for a second. Here in Arizona, our governor is now offering families up to $7,000 for issues stemming from school closures, and the funding would go towards child care, transportation, tutoring, and school tuition needs if a school is closed. Now, I'm a little torn because although I like that it's attacking the power of the teachers' unions, no question, that needs to be done. It also is putting the government in charge of the situation. My opinion is school vouchers. Parents should have the choice of where their kids go. Plain and simple. The fact that they don't is a joke and is ridiculous. And maybe because of all this, that may actually cause this to happen. That would be an opportunity, because then if schools had to compete for students, guess what? A lot would change, wouldn't it? A lot would change. So there's a lot of cause for hope. Stay tuned. Contact me if you want to take control of your money and navigate this changing economic environment. Toll free 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guest on this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Products and writers may have limitations and may not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be charges when replacing coverage. Compare when considering a replacement. Dividend rates and baseline of credit rates may change. Contact yourpersonalbank.com for current rates.